The night sky over Earth shimmered with countless stars, their light traveling millions of years to reach human eyes. For centuries, humanity had gazed upward, dreaming of what lay beyond. But tonight, those dreams turned into nightmares. Deep within an observatory nestled in the Chilean Andes, Dr. Ilara Quinn sat hunched over her computer screen. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she analyzed data from a newly upgraded telescope. The machine was one of the most advanced on the planet, capable of detecting faint signals billions of miles away. What it found that evening, however, would change everything. A series of blips appeared on the monitor, tiny dots moving in perfect formation against the backdrop of space. At first, Ilara thought it might be a glitch or perhaps a cluster of asteroids. But as she zoomed in, her breath caught in her throat. These weren't random objects. They were ships, hundreds of them, and they were heading straight for Earth. Ilara's heart pounded as she double-checked the calculations. There was no mistake. The fleet was massive, each vessel larger than any aircraft carrier ever built by humanity. Their trajectory suggested they'd arrive in less than 3 weeks. Whoever, or whatever, they weren't here for friendly visits. She immediately contacted NASA headquarters, sending encrypted files of her findings. Within hours, news spread like wildfire through government agencies around the world. Military leaders convened emergency meetings. Scientists scrambled to understand the nature of the threat. Panic began to ripple across the globe. By morning, social media erupted with speculation. Some claimed it was a hoax. Others prayed for divine intervention. Many feared the worst, that this was the end of life as they knew it. Governments tried to keep calm, but whispers of an alien invasion flooded every corner of the planet. Captain Ryland Cross, commander of Earth's fledgling United Space Defense Force, stood in front of a large display screen showing the incoming fleet. His jaw tightened as he studied the images. Humanity's defenses were laughable compared to what they were up against. Missiles and fighter jets wouldn't stand a chance against such advanced technology. "What do we know about them?" Rylan asked, turning to his team. "Not much," replied Lieutenant Mylan, her voice tense. "But based on historical records, these could be the Vorthak Dominion. They've conquered dozens of planets in other star systems." The Vorthaks. Rylan frowned. He'd heard rumors during his training, stories of ruthless conquerors who stripped worlds bare for resources before moving on to the next target. If these aliens truly were the Vorthaks, then Earth was doomed unless they came up with something extraordinary. Meanwhile, back at the observatory, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The fleet's approach seemed deliberate, almost cautious. Why would such a powerful empire hesitate when facing a species as primitive as humans? It didn't make sense. That's when she noticed something strange. Buried deep within the cosmic radiation surrounding the fleet were faint pulses, patterns too precise to be natural. She ran simulations, cross-referencing the signals with known phenomena. Nothing matched. But there was something familiar about the rhythm, almost like Morse code. Hours later, after decoding fragments of the signal, Ilara stumbled upon a chilling message: "Run while you can." Her hands trembled as she realized the truth. This wasn't just an invasion, it was extermination. Whoever had sent the warning had faced the Vorthaks before, and lost. Now it was Earth's turn. But Ilara refused to give up hope. Somewhere hidden in the stars was a clue, a way to fight back. She leaned closer to her screen, determination burning in her eyes. Humanity might have been outmatched, but it wasn't defeated. Not yet. And so, as the shadow of the Vorthak fleet loomed ever closer, one woman prepared to defy the odds. Dr. Ilara Quinn stared at the decoded fragments of the mysterious signal, her mind racing. The message, "Run while you can," was cryptic and terrifying, but it hinted at something more. Someone had survived long enough to send this warning. That meant the Vorthaks weren't invincible. But who were they? And how had they managed to escape? Ilara knew she couldn't face this alone. She reached out to Captain Ryland Cross, hoping his military expertise might help piece together the puzzle. Within hours, Rylan arrived at the observatory, accompanied by Lieutenant Mylin, a brilliant communications specialist. Together, they set up a makeshift command center in the lab. This signal, it's not random, Ilara explained, pointing to the data on her screen. It's deliberate. Whoever sent it wanted us to find it. Rylan frowned, leaning over her shoulder. You think it's a trap? No, Ilara said firmly. If they wanted to trick us, they wouldn't have bothered with such a vague warning. This feels desperate, like they're trying to tell us something important. May adjusted her glasses and began running additional analysis on the signal. After several minutes, she spoke up. These pulses match patterns we've seen before in ancient broadcasts from other star systems. They're warnings, messages left behind by civilizations that faced the vortex and didn't survive. A galactic SOS? Rylan asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Exactly, Mai replied. But there's more. Some of these signals contain specific instructions. Advice on how to deal with the vortex. Ilara's eyes lit up. Can you isolate those parts? May nodded and got to work. Hours later, they uncovered another fragment of the message. Do not resist. They will annihilate you. Instead, show them what they fear. The room fell silent as the weight of the words sank in. Show them what they fear. What did that even mean? Humanity had no advanced weapons, no superpowers, nothing that could scare an empire capable of conquering entire planets. It's psychological, Ilara murmured, breaking the silence. They're telling us to play mind games, to make the vortex believe we're stronger than we are. Rylan crossed his arms, skeptical. Even if we could pull off some kind of bluff, how do we know they'll fall for it? These guys don't strike me as the gullible type. That's why we need to understand their weaknesses, Ilara insisted. Every empire has cracks. We just have to find theirs. Over the next few days, the team delved deeper into the archived signals, piecing together snippets of information about the Vorthak Dominion. They learned that the Vortex valued order above all else. Chaos and unpredictability unsettled them. They also feared extinction. Ironically, the very fate they imposed on others. One particular message stood out. It came from a civilization called the Krylos, rumored to be one of the most technologically advanced species in the galaxy. According to the transmission, the Krylos had once fought the Vorthax using unconventional tactics. Though they ultimately lost, their resistance delayed the invasion for decades. What kind of tactics? Rylan asked, intrigued. They used energy-based weapons, Mai explained. Something about destabilizing matter at a quantum level. Ilara's heart skipped a beat. Quantum destabilization. That sounded eerily similar to theories proposed during Earth's early experiments with nuclear energy. Back then, scientists had theorized that certain frequencies of energy could tear apart atoms, but the idea was abandoned due to its destructive potential. We need to revisit those experiments, Ilara said, excitement creeping into her voice. If we can harness that Kindunknown error. Ilara's mind raced as she dug through dusty archives and classified documents. She knew the key to humanity's survival might lie in experiments conducted decades ago. Experiments deemed too dangerous to pursue. Quantum destabilization, the process of breaking matter apart at its most fundamental level, had been dismissed as a theoretical nightmare. But now, with Earth on the brink of annihilation, it was time to revisit the unthinkable. She called an emergency meeting with Captain Rylan Cross and Lieutenant Mylin, laying out her findings. This isn't just about building weapons, Ilara explained, pacing the room. It's about creating something that can scare the Vortex, something they've never seen before. Rylan leaned back in his chair, his brow furrowed. You're talking about tearing apart atoms. Do you have any idea how risky that is? One wrong move, and we could destroy ourselves faster than the Vortex ever could. I'm aware of the risks, Ilara replied sharply. But if we don't take this chance, there won't be a future for us to worry about. We need to build a device, a quantum resonance amplifier. that can emit these frequencies safely, but powerfully enough to send a message. Mai chimed in, her voice calm but firm. Even if we figure out the science, constructing this thing will require resources we don't have. Rare materials, advanced machinery, not to mention experts who understand quantum mechanics. Ilara nodded. Then we'll get what we need. Every nation on Earth has to contribute. This isn't just my fight, it's everyone's. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Governments around the world, once divided by politics and greed, came together under the looming shadow of the Vorthek fleet. Factories repurposed their equipment to produce components for the Quantum Resonance Amplifier, QRA. Scientists from rival countries collaborated, sharing knowledge they'd guarded jealously for years. Ordinary citizens volunteered their skills, working tirelessly to assemble parts in makeshift workshops. Despite the unity, skepticism lingered. General Marcus Hale, a grizzled veteran of Earth's military, voiced his concerns loudly. "We're betting everything on a theory that hasn't been tested in over 50 years, he growled during a strategy meeting. What happens if this so-called amplifier doesn't work? Or worse, what if it backfires? Ilara met his gaze without flinching. If we do nothing, we die. If we try and fail, we still die. But at least we go down fighting. Isn't that better than rolling over and letting them crush us?" Her words struck a chord. Slowly, even General Hale relented, though his distrust remained evident. As construction began, Ilara faced another challenge: finding the right location for testing the QRA. It needed to be remote enough to avoid collateral damage, but accessible enough for quick adjustments. After much debate, they chose an isolated desert in Australia, far from populated areas. Weeks passed in a blur of calculations, simulations, and late-night debates. Finally, the prototype was ready. Standing in the middle of the barren desert, the QRA looked like a strange fusion of modern technology and alien design. Its core glowed faintly, humming with untapped energy. "This is it," Ilara whispered, staring at the machine. "Our last hope." Ryland placed a hand on her shoulder. "Let's make sure it works." But as the team prepared for the first test, doubts crept in. What if the QRA caused catastrophic destruction? What if it wasn't powerful enough to impress the Vortex? For all their hard work, success was far from guaranteed. Still, Ilara refused to let fear paralyze her. Humanity had no other choice. With trembling hands, she activated the controls, and the machine roared to life. A pulse of energy shot into the sky, rippling outward like a shockwave. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the ground shook violently, and clouds of dust erupted around them. The team scrambled for cover as chaos unfolded. When the dust settled, the landscape was scarred. Trees uprooted, rocks shattered. But the QRA had worked. Anything caught in its field had disintegrated instantly. "It's powerful," Mai said, awestruck. "Too powerful." Ilara stared at the devastation, her heart heavy. They created a weapon capable of stopping the Vortex. But at what cost? The aftermath of the QRA's first test left everyone shaken. The device had proven its power, but the destruction it caused was undeniable. Entire sections of the Australian desert were reduced to barren wasteland, and nearby wildlife habitats lay in ruins. News of the test spread quickly, despite efforts to keep it under wraps. Videos surfaced online showing the eerie glow of the energy pulse and the trembling earth that followed. Panic rippled through humanity. Public opinion split like a fault line. Some hailed the QRA as Earth's salvation, a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience. Others condemned it as a monstrous weapon, arguing that using such a device would make humanity no better than the Vortex. Protests erupted in cities worldwide. In New York, thousands gathered outside the United Nations headquarters, holding signs that read "No to destruction" and "Save humanity, don't destroy it." Meanwhile, in Tokyo, scientists held press conferences urging caution, warning that deploying the QRA could destabilize Earth itself. Amidst the chaos, Dr. Elara Quinn found herself at the center of a storm. Reporters hounded her for interviews, politicians demanded answers, and activists called her a war criminal. But Elara refused to back down. She knew the QRA wasn't perfect. It was dangerous, unpredictable, and morally ambiguous. Yet without it, humanity stood no chance against the Vorthok fleet now less than 2 weeks away. Captain Ryland Cross became her staunchest ally. Together, they addressed the global coalition overseeing the project, pleading for more time to refine the QRA. "This isn't just about winning," Ryland said during one heated meeting. "It's about proving we're worth saving. If we can show the Vorthoks that we're not just another planet to conquer, if we can scare them into leaving, then maybe we don't have to use this thing as a weapon." His words struck a chord with many leaders, but not all were convinced. General Marcus Hale, still skeptical of the entire operation, argued for immediate deployment. "We've got one shot at this," he growled. "Why wait until they're knocking on our doorstep? Hit them now while we still can." Elara stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "Because rushing in blind will only get us killed. We need precision, control, and a plan. Otherwise, we risk turning our own planet into ashes." Her determination inspired others to rally behind her. Engineers worked around the clock to improve the QRA's targeting systems, ensuring it wouldn't cause widespread collateral damage. Scientists studied data from the first test, tweaking frequencies to minimize environmental impact. Volunteers poured in from every corner of the globe, offering their skills and labor. For the first time in history, humanity truly felt united, not by shared culture or ideals, but by sheer necessity. Even ordinary citizens played a role. Farmers donated crops to feed workers stationed near the testing site. Artists painted murals of hope on city walls, reminding people why they were fighting. Children wrote letters to the team, calling them heroes and promising to be brave. But unity came at a cost. Supplies dwindled as resources were diverted to the QRA project. Power shortages plagued several regions, and tensions rose between neighboring nations over resource allocation. Despite these challenges, Elara reminded everyone of what was at stake. "If we give up now," she told a crowd of weary volunteers, "everything we've built, all the sacrifices we've made, will mean nothing. This is our moment to prove that we're stronger together than apart." As the days ticked by, the Vorthok fleet grew closer. Their massive ships cast long shadows over Earth, visible even during daylight hours. Fear gripped the hearts of billions, but so did resolve. People looked to the sky, not with despair, but with defiance. In the final days before the fleet reached orbit, Elara stood atop a hill overlooking the QRA facility. Behind her, lights burned late into the night as teams worked tirelessly. Above her, the stars twinkled faintly, obscured by the looming threat. She clenched her fists, determination hardening her expression. Humanity might have been divided before, but now they were one. And though the road ahead was uncertain, Elara believed, with every fiber of her being, that they could rise to meet it. The Vorthok fleet finally entered Earth's orbit, its massive ships blotting out the sun in some regions. Towering vessels hovered ominously above continents, their sleek metallic surfaces glinting like mirrors. The world watched in stunned silence as these alien juggernauts broadcast a single message across every frequency: "Surrender your planet. Resistance is futile." Dr. Elara Quinn stood in the control room of the QRA facility, her hands trembling slightly as she listened to the cold, mechanical voice. Beside her, Captain Ryland Cross clenched his jaw, his knuckles white, as he gripped the edge of the console. Lieutenant Madeline monitored incoming data, her face pale but resolute. "They're giving us a choice," Mai said quietly, though everyone knew it wasn't much of one. Surrender meant enslavement, or worse. Resistance meant annihilation. Humanity teetered on the edge of both outcomes. But then came an unexpected development. A smaller ship detached from the main fleet and descended toward Earth. It moved with deliberate slowness, almost as if testing the waters. Within hours, The craft docked at the International Space Station, ISS, where a delegation awaited nervously. The envoy stepped out, a towering insectoid creature named Xerx. Its exoskeleton shimmered with iridescent hues, and its multifaceted eyes scanned the humans with unsettling focus. 2 rows of sharp mandibles clicked together rhythmically as it spoke through a translator device strapped to its chest. "You are primitive," Xerx began, its voice harsh and guttural. "Your weapons are insignificant compared to ours. Why resist when you can serve?" Captain Rylan Cross, leading the human delegation, stepped forward. His uniform was crisp, his posture unwavering. "We've survived for thousands of years because we adapt," he replied evenly. "And we don't bow easily." Xerx tilted its head, studying him with what might have been curiosity or disdain. "Adaptation does not guarantee survival. Your kind has already faced extinction events. This will simply be another." Ilara stepped forward next, clutching a tablet filled with data. She had spent the past night compiling evidence, fragments of ancient broadcasts, details about the QRA, and hints of humanity's recent technological leaps. Though incomplete, the information painted a picture of a species capable of innovation under pressure. "We know who you are," Ilara said, her voice steady despite the fear coiling in her stomach. "We know how you operate, and we know your weaknesses." Xerx froze, its clicking mandibles falling silent for a moment. Then it leaned closer, its antennae twitching. "Weaknesses? You presume to understand us." Ilara hesitated, realizing she had overplayed her hand. They didn't fully understand the Vortex vulnerabilities yet, but bluffing was all they had. "History repeats itself," she continued, forcing confidence into her tone. "Every empire falls eventually. Yours will too." For a long moment, Xerx stared at her, its expression unreadable. Finally, it straightened and turned away. "You speak boldly for being so fragile, but words mean nothing without proof." With that, Xerx boarded its ship and departed, leaving the humans tense and uncertain. Had they bought themselves more time, or provoked an immediate attack? Back at the QRA facility, Ilara replayed the encounter in her mind. Xerx's reaction suggested doubt. Perhaps their display of knowledge had planted a seed of hesitation. If the Vortex believed humanity possessed secrets or technology beyond their understanding, they might think twice before launching an assault. Rylan broke the silence. "Did we just call their bluff, or did we dig our own graves?" "We won't know until they make their move," Ilara admitted. "But if we play this right, we might still have a chance." May nodded grimly. "Let's hope they take the bait." As the team worked tirelessly to refine the QRA, the world held its breath. The Vortex hadn't attacked yet, but the shadow of their fleet loomed larger than ever. For now, humanity's fate rested on a fragile web of deception and determination. The days that followed Xerx's departure were tense. The Vortex fleet remained in orbit, its ships eerily silent as they monitored Earth. Humanity had bought itself a reprieve, but no one knew how long it would last. Every second counted. Back at the QRA facility, Dr. Ilara Quinn and her team worked around the clock to refine the quantum resonance amplifier. The first test had proven its destructive power, but it was still too unstable for controlled use. If they triggered it near Earth, the consequences could be catastrophic. They needed precision, something that wouldn't risk obliterating their own planet along with the enemy. Ilara pored over calculations, her eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. She knew the stakes. One misstep could turn their salvation into humanity's doom. "We need to recalibrate the frequency," she muttered to Lieutenant Mylin, who sat beside her analyzing data streams. "If we adjust the resonance field just slightly, we might minimize collateral damage." May nodded, typing furiously on her laptop. "I've run simulations based on your adjustments. It should reduce the radius of destruction by half, but there's still a margin of error. Half is better than nothing." Captain Rylan Cross said firmly, pacing behind them. We can't afford another disaster like the desert test. People are already scared enough. Scared was an understatement. Around the globe, protests against the QRA grew louder. Videos of the Australian wasteland went viral, fueling fears that humanity's weapon might destroy Earth before the vortex even fired a shot. Activists called for peace negotiations, while others demanded immediate evacuation plans. Some even claimed surrender was the only option. Amidst this turmoil, General Marcus Hale made his move. Late one night, armed soldiers stormed the QRA facility under his command. He burst into the control room, flanked by troops, and pointed directly at Ilara. "This ends now," he growled. "You're gambling with billions of lives. We'll take the QRA and use it ourselves." Ilara stood her ground, defiance blazing in her eyes. "If you try to deploy it prematurely, you'll kill us all," she shot back. "It's not ready." Hale ignored her, barking orders to his men. Chaos erupted as Ryland stepped forward to block their path. "Stand down," he shouted. "This isn't helping anyone." A scuffle broke out. Mai frantically tried to lock down the system controls, preventing unauthorized access. For several heart-stopping minutes, punches were thrown, equipment knocked over, and alarms blared. Finally, reinforcements loyal to Ryland arrived, forcing Hale and his men to retreat. Breathing heavily, Ilara slumped into a chair. Her hand shook as she stared at the damaged control panel. "He almost ruined everything," she whispered. Ryland knelt beside her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "He's gone. For now. But this proves we can't trust everyone. From here on out, we operate under tighter security." Despite the setback, progress continued. After hours of repairs and recalibrations, the team prepared for a second test. This time, they chose a remote island in the Pacific Ocean, far from human settlements. The goal was simple: target a single, isolated object, a derelict cargo ship, and see if the QRA could destroy it without affecting the surrounding area. As dawn broke, the team gathered on a nearby observation deck. Ilara activated the QRA remotely, her finger hovering over the trigger. When the energy pulse shot out, the cargo ship vanished instantly, leaving behind only ripples in the water. Success. The blast radius was contained, exactly as predicted. Cheers erupted among the team members. For the first time in weeks, hope flickered brighter than fear. But Ilara remained cautious. "This is progress," she said softly, staring at the horizon. "But it's not victory yet." Above them, the Vorthek fleet loomed silently, watching. Time was running out. The success of the second QRA test brought a brief moment of relief, but it also deepened the fractures within humanity's fragile coalition. News of General Marcus Hale's attempted coup spread like wildfire, sowing distrust among military leaders and civilians alike. While some condemned his actions as reckless and power-hungry, others sympathized with his desperation. The debate over whether to use the QRA defensively or preemptively grew louder, threatening to tear apart the unity that had been so hard-won. Dr. Ilara Quinn felt the weight of these divisions pressing down on her shoulders. Every meeting turned into an argument, every decision a battle. She spent hours mediating disputes between scientists, soldiers, and politicians, trying to keep everyone focused on the bigger picture: survival. But the cracks were widening, and she knew it was only a matter of time before they broke open completely. One evening, after another exhausting day, Ilara found herself alone in the control room of the QRA facility. She stared at the glowing console, her mind racing with doubts. Was she doing the right thing? Could humanity really wield such immense power responsibly? A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Turning, she saw Captain Ryland Cross standing in the doorway, his expression grim. "We've got a problem," he said without preamble. "Hale didn't give up after the last incident. He's gathering support, recruiting allies who think we're wasting time testing the QRA instead of using it now." Ilara sighed, rubbing her temples. "He doesn't understand what's at stake. If we rush this, we risk everything. I know, Rylan replied. But he's not acting alone anymore. Some high-ranking officials agree with him. They see the QRA as our ace card, and they want to play it before the Vortex strike first. Before Ilara could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, and voices crackled over the intercom system. Unauthorized access detected in Sector B4. All personnel to lockdown positions. Rylan sprang into action, grabbing his sidearm and motioning for Ilara to follow. Together, they rushed toward the source of the breach. When they arrived, they found chaos unfolding. Armed soldiers loyal to Hale had seized part of the facility, barricading themselves inside the central control hub where the QRA's core systems were located. "Stand down," Rylan shouted, addressing the group through a secure channel. "You're jeopardizing the entire operation." Hale's voice responded coldly. "This is bigger than your little science project, Cross. We're taking control of the QRA and ending this threat once and for all." Inside the control room, Lieutenant Magdalene worked frantically to disable the override protocols Hale's team was attempting to activate. Sweat dripped from her brow as lines of code scrolled across her screen. "I can stall them," she called out to Ilara and Rylan, "but I can't hold them off forever." Ilara clenched her fists, anger boiling inside her. "We can't let him do this. If he fires the QRA prematurely, he'll destroy half the planet along with the Vortex." Rylan nodded grimly. "Then we stop him, by any means necessary." What followed was a tense standoff. Rylan led a small team of loyal operatives in a daring assault on the control hub. Gunfire echoed through the corridors as both sides exchanged fire. Inside the chaos, Ilara slipped past unnoticed, heading straight for the server room. She knew the only way to shut down the QRA remotely was to sever its connection to the mainframe. Dodging patrols, she reached the server room just as Hale's men breached the final barrier. Her heart pounded as she yanked cables from the wall. One by one, sparks flew, and the hum of the QRA's core faded into silence. Moments later, Rylan burst in, having subdued the remaining insurgents. Hale stood defeated, his face twisted with fury. "You've doomed us all," he spat. "No," Ilara said firmly, standing tall despite her exhaustion. "You almost did. This weapon isn't meant for blind aggression. It's our last hope, for peace, if we're lucky." As guards escorted Hale away, the team regrouped. Though the immediate danger had passed, the betrayal left scars. Trust had been shattered, and tensions lingered. But Ilara refused to let despair take hold. Humanity might be divided, but they still had a chance if they could stay united long enough to face the Vortex. Above them, the alien fleet loomed closer, watching and waiting. Time was running out. The betrayal led by General Marcus Hale had been thwarted, but the damage was done. Trust within the coalition was fractured, and whispers of dissent spread like wildfire. Despite this, Dr. Ilara Quinn and her team pressed on, knowing that hesitation would only ensure humanity's downfall. The Vorthic fleet loomed ominously in Earth's orbit, their massive ships casting long shadows over cities below. Every hour brought them closer to an inevitable confrontation. One morning, as the sun rose over the QRA facility, the Vortex made their move. Mining drones descended from the fleet, targeting key locations across the globe. They began stripping resources, harvesting minerals, draining water reserves, and even dismantling entire structures for raw materials. Cities crumbled under orbital bombardments, sending shockwaves through populations already stretched thin. Millions perished in the initial attacks, and panic consumed the survivors. Ilara watched the destruction unfold on live feeds, her hands trembling with rage and helplessness. "This is it," she whispered to Captain Rylan Cross, who stood beside her. "If we don't act now, there won't be anything left to save." Rylan nodded grimly. "Then let's show them what we're capable of." With no time to waste, Ilara activated the QRA remotely, directing its energy pulse toward one of the mining drones hovering above North America. The machine shuddered violently before disintegrating into a cloud of metallic debris. It was a small victory, but a visible one. The Vortex couldn't ignore such a blatant display of power. As expected, the fleet responded swiftly. A transmission crackled through communication channels, broadcasting directly to Earth's leaders. Xerx appeared once again, its insectoid form towering over the screen. Its mandibles clicked angrily as it addressed humanity. "You dare challenge us. Your defiance will cost you dearly." Ilara stepped forward, determined not to back down. "You think we're primitive because we're younger than you. But you underestimate us at your peril." Xerx tilted its head, antennae twitching. "Explain yourself." Taking a deep breath, Ilara played her carefully rehearsed bluff. "We've studied your kind, not just through intercepted signals, but through ancient knowledge passed down to us. You fear extinction more than anything else. That's why you conquer others instead of risking yourselves. But if you push us too far, you'll find out why some civilizations vanish without a trace." Behind her, May and Raylan exchanged uneasy glances. Ilara's claim about ancient knowledge was fabricated, a gamble designed to plant doubt in the Vortex minds. If they believed humanity possessed secrets beyond their understanding, they might hesitate long enough for Earth to prepare. For several tense moments, Xerx stared silently, its multifaceted eyes unreadable. Finally, it spoke. "Prove your words. Show us this knowledge." Ilara hesitated, then gestured toward the QRA facility. "Our weapon is proof enough. Watch closely." She initiated another test, this time creating a controlled resonance wave in Earth's upper atmosphere. The sky shimmered unnaturally, glowing with eerie pulses of light. To human observers, it looked terrifyingly beautiful. To the Vortex, however, it must have seemed otherworldly, a phenomenon they couldn't explain. Back aboard the flagship, Xerx reported to its superiors. Through intercepted transmissions, humanity learned that the Vortex were debating whether Earth truly held advanced technology, or if their resistance was part of a larger trap. For the first time since the invasion began, the alien fleet paused its assault. In the aftermath, Ilara allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. She knew the reprieve wouldn't last forever. Sooner or later, the Vortex would call their bluff, or escalate their attack. But for now, humanity had bought itself precious time. "We've shown them we're not afraid to fight back," Ryland said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "What's next?" Ilara turned to face him, resolve burning in her eyes. "Now we finish what we started." Above them, the Vortex fleet lingered, watching and waiting. The battle wasn't over, but neither was humanity's spirit. The Vortex fleet's hesitation gave humanity a fleeting but crucial advantage. Dr. Ilara Quinn knew the aliens wouldn't remain idle for long. They were too methodical, too calculating to let Earth slip through their grasp. If they discovered that humanity's ancient knowledge was nothing more than smoke and mirrors, the consequences would be catastrophic. Ilara realized it wasn't enough to bluff. She needed to sell the deception completely. In the days following the atmospheric test, Ilara pored over the fragments of ancient broadcasts from other civilizations. Among them, one recurring theme stood out: reverence for a mythical precursor race known as the Krylos. According to legend, the Krylos had been the most advanced species in the galaxy, capable of manipulating energy on a cosmic scale. Their downfall was shrouded in mystery, but rumors suggested they had intentionally erased themselves to avoid enslavement by the Vortex. Ilara's mind raced with possibilities. What if Earth claimed to be descendants of the Krylos? It was audacious, perhaps even impossible, but it might just work. The Vortex feared extinction above all else, and invoking the name of a legendary civilization could plant seeds of doubt deep within their ranks. She shared her idea with Captain Ryland Cross and Lieutenant Madeline during an emergency meeting at the QRA facility. "We need to convince them that we're not just another primitive species," Ilara explained, pacing the room. If we make them believe we inherited the Krylos power, or at least their secrets, they'll think twice about attacking us. Rylan raised an eyebrow. You want to fake divine intervention. Not divine, Ilara corrected. Mythological. To them, the Krylos are like gods. If we position ourselves as their heirs, we become untouchable. May nodded slowly. It's risky, but it could work. We'll need evidence, something tangible to back up your claim. Over the next 48 hours, the team worked tirelessly to create a convincing performance. Using holographic projectors and manipulated data streams, they staged an elaborate ritual near the QRA facility. Dressed in ceremonial robes stitched together from salvaged materials, Ilara led a group of scientists and volunteers in what appeared to be an ancient ceremony. The QRA hummed ominously in the background, its core glowing brighter with each passing moment. As cameras rolled, Ilara addressed the sky, her voice echoing through loudspeakers. O great ancestors of the Krylos, hear our plea. Grant us your strength to defend this world against those who seek to destroy it. At her signal, Mai activated the QRA, creating another controlled resonance wave. This time, however, the team amplified the effect using reflective particles released into the atmosphere, making the sky shimmer with kaleidoscopic colors. To anyone watching, including the Vortex, it looked as though divine energy was flowing directly from the heavens. Unbeknownst to the humans, Xerx observed the spectacle from the safety of the flagship. Its mandibles clicked rapidly as it processed the scene below. Though skeptical by nature, even Xerx couldn't deny the resemblance between the display and descriptions of Krylos technology found in classified archives. Could these primitive beings truly be connected to the lost civilization? When Xerx reported back to the fleet's commander, uncertainty rippled through the Vorthek ranks. Some advocated immediate retaliation, dismissing the event as trickery. Others urged caution, fearing retribution from powers beyond comprehension. Debates raged endlessly, buying humanity more time. Back on Earth, Ilara watched the footage of their performance. Exhaustion etched across her face. Do you think they bought it? She asked quietly. Rylan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Whether they did or not, you've given us a fighting chance. Now we wait and prepare for whatever comes next. Above them, the Vorthek fleet remained eerily still, its massive ships casting long shadows over the scared planet below. Humanity had gambled everything on a legend reborn, but the outcome was far from certain. The waiting was the hardest part. Days passed in agonizing silence as the Vorthek fleet lingered in Earth's orbit, its ships eerily motionless. Humanity held its collective breath, unsure whether their gamble had succeeded or if the aliens were simply biding their time before launching a final assault. Dr. Ilara Quinn spent every waking moment preparing for either outcome. The QRA facility buzzed with activity as engineers fine-tuned the device, ensuring it could be deployed at a moment's notice. Soldiers trained tirelessly, ready to defend what little remained of Earth's cities. Civilians huddled together in underground shelters, praying for salvation while bracing for devastation. Then, on the 5th day of the standoff, movement rippled through the alien fleet. Ships shifted positions, engines flared, and communications channels crackled to life. Xerx appeared once more, its insectoid form looming large on screens worldwide. Its voice was colder than ever, but there was something new in its tone. Uncertainty. Your claims are bold, Xerx began, addressing humanity directly. If you truly carry the legacy of the Krylos, then prove it. Show us the extent of your power. Ilara exchanged a glance with Captain Rylan Cross and Lieutenant Madeline. This was it, the moment of truth. If they failed to convince the Vorthax now, all hope would be lost. With no time to waste, Ilara activated the QRA one final time. But this wasn't just another energy pulse, it was a spectacle designed to awe. Using advanced holograms and synchronized resonance waves, she created an illusion of cosmic destruction. The sky above Earth seemed to tear apart, revealing swirling vortexes of light that mimicked portals to other dimensions. Lightning like tendrils shot across the atmosphere, striking random points in space with pinpoint accuracy. To the Vortex, it looked as though the fabric of reality itself was unraveling under humanity's command. In truth, it was pure theatrics, an elaborate show meant to reinforce the myth of the Krylos' divine power. Every detail had been carefully choreographed, from the timing of the pulses to the visual effects projected into the heavens. Xerx watched in stunned silence, its antennae twitching nervously. After several tense moments, it turned to its superiors aboard the flagship. Whatever transpired during those exchanges, the result was clear. The Vortex fleet began retreating. One by one, the massive ships disengaged from Earth's orbit, their engines blazing as they ascended into the void. Within hours, the last vessel disappeared beyond the horizon, leaving behind only silence and the faint afterglow of their departure. Cheers erupted around the globe as news of the retreat spread. People spilled into the streets, tears streaming down their faces as they embraced loved ones. For the first time in weeks, hope returned to Earth. But Ilara felt no joy, only relief. She stood atop a hill overlooking the QRA facility, her eyes fixed on the stars. Beside her, Rylan spoke softly. "You did it. You saved us." "No," she replied, shaking her head. "We all did, and we can't forget the cost." Millions had perished during the invasion, and countless cities lay in ruins. The scars ran deep, not just in the landscape, but in the hearts of survivors. Yet amidst the devastation, humanity had found strength. Nations that once warred against each other had united under a common cause. Ordinary people had risen to extraordinary heights, proving that even in the face of annihilation, courage could prevail. As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, Ilara allowed herself a small smile. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but Earth had been given a second chance, a chance to rebuild, to learn, and to grow. Somewhere among the stars, the Vortex retreated, wary of the legend reborn. And somewhere on Earth, humanity dreamed of a future where they might take their place among the cosmos, not as victims, but as equals. The shadow had lifted. A new dawn had arrived.